Okay, now we're gonna do the Yo Mama session. The number one key to incredible sex. And I just wanna set this up a little bit for you guys so you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. In addition to some of the things that I do, being a minister and a relationship speaker and a musician and whatever, I'm also a pilot. And if I were to try and tell you how to go from my home airport in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, to Green Bay. Ooh, we got a Green Bay person there. I say, Pastor, how do you get there? I'd say, well, you pretty much would fly a heading of 090. Actually, technically, it's a little more north of that, but for our example, that's fine. You fly 090, you pretty much go right from Stevens Point to Green Bay, okay? Now, that's assuming there are no other variables. For example, if the wind starts blowing very hard out of the north and you keep flying 090, you won't get to Green Bay. You'll wind up in Milwaukee or Chicago or who knows where else, depending on the strength of the wind. So if the wind is coming that hard, we might change our heading to 065 or something. Now we're flying more like this to go this way, okay? If you keep just pointing the plane to where you want to go without adjusting to the variables, you'll always get off course. So it seems kind of odd, but a lot of times you're flying in weird angles so you can go straight. Now, what I'm going to share with you when I talk about sexual issues here is how to get from point A to point B. But it depends on your variables, and everybody has them, all right? And it's impossible for me to cover all of that in this session. I'll try and do the best that I can, but you're gonna have to use your own best wisdom, your best judgment, common sense to understand why something I might share may not exactly help you get to where you need to get because of your past or whatever the deal is, and then you adjust accordingly. And if you're really stuck, give us a call. Call our office. We would love to help you. And we really appreciate when people call us and asking us questions about, well, how do I deal with this problem and that sort of thing. So just keep that in mind. I understand you might have some big variables and you'll just have to adjust for yourself in that. The other thing that I want you to keep in mind is this. Being a minister, sometimes when you start talking about sexual things and you start to try to explain to people why you have certain moral stands, they don't really understand, but there's a reason for that. The reason God encourages people to wait until marriage to have sex is because when you have sex outside of marriage, you run a very high risk of messing things up. Now, this is particularly true for men. Men tend to imprint off of their early sexual experiences. Much like a bird, some of these birds, these cranes and stuff, they imprint on the first thing they see after they're born. I don't know if you know about this, but there's some animals that when they're born, the first thing it sees, it imprints on and thinks it's mama. So if these stupid cranes are born and a chicken's around, it's gonna follow the chicken and ignore its mother. And professionals who deal with these animals have to be very, very careful not to be seen. I've watched them work with them while they're actually dressed up like gigantic cranes to get around them because they're not the brightest things in the world. It's mama, and they'll follow it everywhere. And men tend to imprint off of their early sexual experiences. If a man's early sexual experiences are in the context of lust, which is what they are outside of marriage. It's not really about love, it's about lust, it's about heat, it's about the backseat of a car, it's about someone they don't really know. They tend to imprint on that. They tend to imprint on the sex and not the girl. Are you following me? It's like when they have this, these early orgasmic experiences, it's like their psyche goes, whoa, what was that? And it starts taking pictures. This is because they want to remember. And they imprint off of this. And that's why a lot of guys, they get stuck here. That's why a lot of men are constantly, even in their marriages, are trying to recreate a lust environment, trying to get fulfilled sexually as a married man, trying to force their wives to do things that a lot of them are very uncomfortable in doing. Why are they doing that? Because they're trying to recreate this thing. They're trying to recreate this thing. See, if a man's early sexual experience is in the context of marriage, where he falls in love with this girl and all these people gather together and they all approve of it and they have this wedding and they're in a church and their God approves of it and all their friends and family approve of it and they have the biggest celebration of their life, and then on their wedding night and on their honeymoon he starts having these first experiences. Now he's imprinting on the girl and he connects to the girl at a very deep level. That's why people who wait until they're married to have sex have a fraction of the divorce rate of the rest of the world, because he's imprinting on her as opposed to just sex. I met a man not too long ago who told me after a session, he says, I got a problem. I said, what is it? He says, I'm just not interested in sex, which to a Puerto Rican is very odd. And it's like speaking Swahili, man. I don't know what he's talking about. and I said, well, what do you mean? He says, I don't know. I'm just not interested in her. And then she's really upset with me. And I said, well, are you never interested in sex? He says, well, if we go out and have a nice dinner and go to a hotel or something, then I can get into it. And I said, let me ask you a question. Were you a virgin when you got married? He goes, no. And I says, were you pretty sexually active? His eyes kind of lit up. Well, yeah. And I said, why don't you tell me about it? What would be a typical experience? Oh, I'd find these women and pick them up in bars and take them out for dinner, go to some hotel. I said, do you see what you've done? You've so imprinted off of that you constantly try to go back there. You try to go back there. In fact, psychologists today, our whole sex culture that you get from experts is all lust-based, because they assume virtually everybody's already done this. So they try and encourage people to keep recreating and keep fantasizing and keep imagining and all this other kind of stuff. And it can be very, very destructive. And men can have a really hard time really, truly connecting with their wives. Can you get past that? Yes, you can. And I'm going to show you how. But you just got to understand it's going to be different for you than for everybody else. Same was true with women. They also imprint, but they imprint in a different way. It's not so much on the sex as so much what happens after the sex. And when women have sex outside of marriage, nothing happens after sex. There's no connection. There's no follow-up. They imprint on that sex equals nothing. Sex means nothing. That's why so many married women have such negative attitudes about sex. What I was talking about last night, how this is such a key thing, they don't even comprehend it because they have learned falsely that sex means nothing. If a woman waits until her wedding night and sees how that is how she connects with this guy, she understands this means everything. This is a key. This is a very fundamental thing. Particularly, you feel very bad for women who've been sexually molested, because not only does it mean anything, their whole experience was forced on them, and that so has such an impact. Those early experiences are so important. It's not like God is embarrassed about sex. God is not a prude. He's seen you naked. He can handle it. It would really freak me out, but he can handle it. Some people say, yeah, you shouldn't have sex before marriage. Yeah, it's just puritanical nonsense. No. This stuff has a huge impact on people that a lot of you will struggle with this for the rest of your life. I'm going to show you how to help you with the struggle, which is not what you want to hear. You want to hear how you just fix it and it'll all go away. It won't probably just all go away. You will struggle with this for the rest of your life. All the more reason you need to tell your children what I'm about to tell you, so they do this right. It's a matter of like metabolism. You know how some people, they can eat anything they want and they never gain weight? We all hate those people. They never have to think about it. It's natural to them. They can eat anything and they stay slim all the time. Then there's the rest of us. We so much as look at food, we gain 5 pounds. What is the difference? We can still be at a healthy weight, but it's a lot harder for us. It's a lot more work for us, a lot more energy for us to get into a healthy place. What I'm talking to you about has to do with sexual metabolism. If you do this right in the beginning, those people have an automatic, natural, healthy metabolism. And they carry it with them throughout their whole lives. That's why these people usually stay married forever. These guys who get married at, 18 years old, like Debbie and I did, and die at 103, with just they have this healthy sexual metabolism because they didn't get all messed up. And everybody else struggles. That's not to say you cannot have a good sex life. You can. You can have a wonderful sex life. It's just for a lot of you, it's going to be more deliberate, and you're going to have to work at it a little bit harder than others. Are you following what I'm saying? I'm not trying to discourage you, but I'm not going to whitewash this to you. That's why you want to encourage your kids, wait. For the love of God, wait. And particularly for women, not only psychologically, they have now determined through research that women physically do not respond the same after they've had multiple sexual partners. Women typically, when they have sex, they release a chemical called oxytocin into their bloodstream. It gives them this buzz, and it helps them to connect emotionally. It's the same chemical that's released in a woman when she breastfeeds a little baby. And it helps her to connect. They call it the bonding chemical. They have measured that women who have multiple sexual partners, they start releasing less and less oxytocin. Just a physical thing. I mean, this is really dramatic for women. Physically, they can't even get the same buzz. It's not worth it. You can make it work. You can have a healthy sex life. I'm going to show you how to do it. But all the more reason you want to encourage your kids, wait. Do this right. Don't tell them sex is wrong. Sex is wrong. Man, I told my kids sex rocks. Man, sign me up, Jack. I like this. All right? But do it the right way. If you don't do it the right way, they can struggle. Some of you are struggling now. Some of you will struggle for the rest of your lives. You can get it right. Just your metabolism is going to be different. It'll take more energy, and that's okay. Are you hearing me? Don't get discouraged. You can still do it. It'll just be different than if you would have waited. I wish to God we'd all waited. I know we didn't. And it depends on the amount of damage. I mean, just because you had one or two, it doesn't not like you're seriously damaged. But some people who've really been into this stuff before they got married, you struggle. And I know you really struggle with this stuff. And hopefully what I share with you in this session will really help you. Okay, y'all okay? You ready? Now what we're going to do is we are going to focus on the woman. You say, why is that? Because she's a lot more complicated than you. Thank you, dear. So we're going to focus on what it takes for a woman to experience great sex. You see, all a man needs for great sex is for you to show up. All we need is oxygen. Where is she? All right? All right, so guys are easy. Women are a little bit more complicated, and we're going to approach this. And again, keep in mind, I'm going to be dealing with this issue from a stereotypical standpoint that a man is more interested in sex than his wife. If you're the opposite, you just have to interpolate, and a lot of the same rules apply. So number 5, what does a girl need? Well, first, we're going to start with 5 and go up to the number 1 key to incredible sex. She needs romance. Looking at the Song of Solomon, he writes, "How delightful is your love, my bride. How much more pleasing is your love than wine, and the fragrance of your perfume than any spice." Here's a man who knew how to talk to a woman. He was romantic. One of the things that really has me ticked off today with the whole porn thing, and there's lots of them that have me ticked off, but the fundamental one is that it has changed men today. It used to be that men were lovers of women, but this whole porn thing has turned so many men into self-centered pigs. It's not about making love to the woman. It's about being gratified. Why don't you do this to me? Why don't you do that? Hey, man, what do you do? Why don't you get your head out of the toilet? All right? You want to have a great sex life? You've got to learn how to be a lover to the girl. You know, a lot of guys get mad because women aren't as turned on as they are automatically, or don't have as much desire as they have. Guys will say, well, my wife's not interested in sex. Sure she is. All women are interested in sex. All women have sexual desire, but it's different from you. Your job is to be a lover to her and awaken the sexual desire that is in her. All right? And a lot of guys, they don't want to do that. They just want to be lazy. I know, I are one. The guy should focus on the girl. It should be the man's goal to bring his wife to orgasm. You know, and you usually can tell by the way she responds, the little oohs and the ahs, and some of y'all it's yee-haw! Of course, a lot of women say, well, I'm so embarrassed. I couldn't do that. You know, and I say, girls, if your husband has to constantly ask you if you've been to the promised land, you ain't communicating. So, well, I don't know what to do. You know, come up with a signal. You know, whisper bingo in his ear. It makes for great code later. You can talk around the kids. They have no idea what you're talking about. Hey, baby, you up for some bingo later? Yeah, I can do some bingo, you know. Your kids will say, man, you ever see mom and dad play bingo? What's with the bingo thing, you know? Of course, if you're a Catholic, I'm really freaking you out because y'all play bingo every Thursday night at your church. But that's a different bingo, all right? Lovers of women, you should be focusing on the girl. You need to romance the girl, and romancing the girl isn't in the middle of the night going, hey, you awake? Say, well, I'm interested then. Well, you know, look, if your wife likes you waking her up in the dead of sleep, then go for it. I don't care. The minute you feel turned on, you don't have to be immediately gratified. All that's doing is God reminding you, be nice to the girl. Be nice to the girl. Be nice to the girl. All right? And then that should kick you into your romantic mode, not your, hey, come here, baby. Help me out, will you? It is your job to be a lover to the girl. And I'll tell you what, this whole desire thing really has a lot of couples stressed out. Because we've always heard, you know, all of our lives and all the books and all the sex education, this is how it works. You know, desire leads to arousal, which leads to sex. Right? We've all heard that. Great. Only one problem with that. It's not true for millions of people, particularly women. There's some guys, this works for them too, and they really struggle because they, you know, I'm a man, I should be this way, but a lot of people, they're not. A lot of women exhibit little to no desire at all. And then they feel badly about themselves because they think, well, I should. Who told you you should? Some stupid textbook? Who cares? I have discovered, asking couples and interviewing them, that, you know, this whole desire thing, a lot of guys, yeah, she's just not ever interested in sex. She doesn't want to have sex. And I said, really? I said, well, let me ask you a question. Will she have sex with you? Well, yeah. Well, what's she like when she does? Oh, she's incredible. In fact, I've actually come to the point, I don't have any data to support this, but just, you know, from the couples I've talked to, but I've come to believe that some of the most sexual people on the planet exhibit little to no desire at all up front. In fact, a lot of women who are incredible sexual animals only feel like doing it when they're doing it. They don't lead with this big desire thing in front. Now stop and think how that changes your view of yourself. Because right now, if you think, well, gee, I never feel that much, there's something wrong with me, then you develop a negative attitude about sex. See? And a lot of guys get angry at their wives because, well, she never initiates it. She never wants, well, who cares? Who cares? I promise you, in my house, I am the initiator.
I am the initiator. I will initiate, and then I'll be back.
Who cares? Who cares? This has really got a lot of people messed up. I'm telling you, a lot of women, it's just not there until you start waking it in her. Okay? So you've got to learn to be a lover to the girl. Learn how to awaken the desire that is in her.